Okay, now this slide is to continue with the next topic, which is on seed dormancy, germination, and also the asexual reproduction using vegetative propagation in agriculture. Yeah? Well, yeah? Okay, from there just now video just now nanti later on you also learn about how after the double fertilization you form the seed, okay, and then also the fruit itself. So very important, why do you have endosperm? Because endosperm will precede the embryo development. Dari situlah dia bagi store makanan nutrien kepada seed tersebut. So for example, you will learn the two types, monocot and dicot, alright. So the endosperm will store the nutrient to be used by the seedling after the germination. Yeah. So in dicot atau eudicot, the food reserve of the endosperm usually will be export to the cotyledon. So get used to this term yang saya dah mark warna merah ni. Ya. So how does the embryo develop? Usually will carry out mitosis. Yeah. And then after they will split the fertilized egg. Yeah. All this will give you elaboration further based on the video that I showed you just now. Yeah, so read through. Okay, so from the berry they will form the fruit. Okay, and this normally protect the inclusive and also help the dispersal of the seed by the wind or animal itself. Yeah? So structure mature seed. This is very important. If you recall back what you have prepared your lab report, remember how you test using the starch, iodine test and the Benedict test, right? To look at the seed itself. Why they have shown certain carbohydrates. Semua tu sebab because dia nak tunjuk apa pasal dia boleh carry out metabolism. What about food nutrient? So embryo and food supply are enclosed by hard protective seed coat. So in a eudicot or dicot, usually the embryo, which is the seed, consists of tiga benda ni. Hypocotyl, which is the one here, nearby inside here. Radical, right, which is the hole here. And then also the thick cotyledon. Isinya tu alright. So difference between monocot and eudicot. Atau eudicot ni can be dicot dan eudicot boleh terima So you can see apa bezanya So for monocot, usually the embryo will have one single cotyledon, one collectile, and one fertilizer. Tengok mana labelingnya. Whereas for dicot, usually they have similar structure just like the monocot, hanya cotyledon dia nipis. Ataupun can be two cotyledon. Itu ada juga ya. Now fruits can also classify into several types depending on developmental origin. For example, simple fruit daripada satu. Aggregate fruit means banyak-banyak. Kita letak pada satu. Alright. And of course, multiple fruit. Tengok contohnya nenas ni. Nenas ni sebenarnya, kalau you tengok mata dia tu kan. Mata dia sebenarnya adalah menunjukkan satu couple tu. Couple bunga tersebut. So kalau dia multiple, itu boleh buat jadi pineapple. Okay. Unik Nanti you baca dalam some of the video you boleh tengok pasal pineapple. Dia cerita So seed dormancy means what? The seed does not germinate. Why? Because the environment is not appropriate for them to germinate. So that's why they call themselves as dormancy. Why is it dormancy? Because they say it's a condition where there is low metabolic rate and there is suspension. Suspension means suspended means tak bergerak, stop saja. Dia macam pause lah video tu. So growth and development are being suspended. Okay, and you need to have a good or appropriate optimum environmental condition in order to break that dormancy. And usually they are different among species. So seed dormancy increases the chance of that the germination will occur at a time and usually become very advantageous to the seedling. So kalau nak selamatkan seed tu daripada rosak atau apa, biasanya dia akan keras dan remain dormant. Kita tak ada macam tu ya, lain. Alright. So from let's say when there is no dormancy, so katalah dia tak pada optimum environmental condition, that is where the seed will form into a seedling. Okay, so which means the seed will germinate. So that kind of process is called imbibition. Bukan inhibition. Careful spelling. Pernah student silap tulis, dia tulis inhibition salah. It's imbibition. So what does it mean? It's actually the uptake of water, right? In order to make sure that the water is being absorbed through the process of osmosis. So that will expand as well, and then it prepares the seed to germinate. So imbibing water will cause the seed to expand and then rupture the coat and also trigger metabolic changes. So it will resume growth. So this is called a seedling. So in seed germination here, there are two types. One is called epigel, another one is called hypogel. Now this depends on whether there is monocot or dicot. So for epigel is usually for dicot or udicot, meaning that the radicle, if you remember the drawing of the seed just now, right? The radicle will be the first organ to emerge. Meaning they will form a hook. Macam cangkuk, kalau tengok gambar kat bawah tu, macam cangkuk. So it will form a hook that is from the hypocotyl, and then this will grow and push the hook above the ground, and then because of light it will be stimulated further, and then this hypocotyl will straighten and then raise the cotyledon and the epicotyl, right? Whereas for the hypogel pula, the monocot use a different method in order to break when they germinate. So the collector just now will normally protect the embryonic shoot. So what they do is that it will push upward, right, through the soil and into the air straight. Macam ni tengok. Beza kan dengan epigel tadi. Epigel kena ada cangkuk. Okay, daripada radical. Daripada hypocotyl tadi ya. So ada beza antara dua. So pernah keluar soalan juga dalam past years. Dia kata minta buat differences between these two type of germination. So you kena tahu contoh plant tersebut. So for example, epigel germination is common garden pea. Okay. Whereas for the hypogel, maize ataupun jagung. Jagung memang ambil hypogel punya germination. Right? Kena ingat. Okay. Now we continue with this, right, which is on the reproduction mechanism. Right, will be towards the end. So as you all know already, we learn about asexual and the sexual reproduction. So most of the time, right, plants normally they amalkan the asexual reproduction. Okay, so they are able to clone themselves. So through this asexual reproduction, and these are known also as what they call as vegetative reproduction. Contoh yang tadi macam saya mention tadi, runners, rhizomes, suckers and adventitious platelets. These are known as vegetative reproduction. So dalam konsep ni, kita akan tengok apa jenis asexual reproduction yang mentioned usually used by this plant. One is called apomixis. Okay, another one is fragmentation. Now, apomixis is usually the ability of some plant species to produce seed without pollination or fertilization. So, dia tak perlu pakai go through the double fertilization macam yang kita bincangkan tadi. These are called the apomixis. Another one is what you have gone through already, if you can recall back in your reproduction in animals, which is the fragmentation, which means there is a separation of the parent plant into parts. And these parts will develop into whole plants again. So that's why contohnya stolon, rhizome, tubers and bulbs. Kalau lah contoh you potong bawang tu kan. Potong bawang tu yang ada akar tu, potong setengah aja. Lepas tu you bagi dia air sikit, letak biar lama-lama sikit, nanti nampak tunas keluar daripada bawang tu. So those are called the bulb method, which is fragmentation process. Okay. Now, because agriculture is very important to us because they provide food, right? So that's why a lot of the agriculture use the method using vegetative propagation. So humans have devised various methods, okay, for asexual propagation of angiosperm. So there are many methods such as using cuttings, okay, potong-potong-potong cucuk je. Ada juga macam tu. Dia tumbuh juga. Another one using grafting. Grafting means from one type of batang tu, you tunggu, you bagi potong-potong sebelah bawah dia tu, kat tengah-tengah tu, lepas you taruh lah apa batang plastik ke apa, potong batang tu, katalah batang dari pokok A, cantum kat batang pokok B, lepas tu pakai wrap dengan plastik dia, terus jadi satu pokok yang lain. So this called grafting. There are many ways of doing that. And of course the most famous one is being carried out very, very extensively is the test tube cloning. Like the one you see in the picture here, right? So this test tube cloning ni penting ya, sebab they can do mass production of uh, seedlings or anak-anak pokok. Macam contohnya pokok pisang pisang montel. Usually carry out this. Orchids, all this, right? So before I end this, this is another video which will proceed with another lecture regarding the plant growth and development. Kita nak tengok kalau pokok-pokok lain macam mana dia besar. Dia tumbuh besarkan balik daripada based on what you have learned. So nanti you have to recall back what you have learned from your part 1 regarding the histology of plant tissue. Remember xylem, phloem semua tu? So you have to recall balik ya, cari nota lama and then go back. So we're going to start the one later on in the next gimmick kita. Thank you. Bye-bye.